Hi boys and girls, welcome back to Mr. Brakefield Reads. I just want to start off with a quick apology, just to say sorry for not uploading videos on Sunday and Wednesday. Those of you who came on Sunday and Wednesday to look for new videos will be disappointed to find that there were no new videos. The reason for that is that last Saturday I became unwell and spent much of this week in bed, unfortunately, but thankfully I'm back and I'm ready to continue reading Roald Dahl's The Twits. I'm here tonight with my little boy Noah and the Gruffalo. We're going to sit and listen. Oh, you're going to sit and listen, aren't you, Noah?
Yeah.
And we're going to read on, okay? So let's go. So last time, if you remember rightly, Mr. Twit, he had convinced Mrs. Twit that she had something called the shrinks. The only way that he was going to be able to cure this was to give her a stretching. Well, Mrs. Twit gets her stretching in the next part of the book. Mr. Twit led Mrs. Twit outdoors where he had everything ready for the great stretching. He had 100 balloons and lots of string. He had a gas cylinder for filling the balloons. He had fixed an iron ring into the ground. "Stand there," he said, pointing to the iron ring. Then he tied Mrs. Twit's ankles to the iron ring. When that was done, he began filling the balloons with gas. Each balloon was on a long string, and when it was filled with gas, it pulled on its string, trying to go up and up. Mr. Twit tied the ends of the strings to the top half of Mrs. Twit's body. Some he tied round her neck, some under her arms, some to her wrists, and some even to her hair. Soon, there were 50 coloured balloons floating in the air above Mrs. Twit's head. "Can you feel them stretching you?" asked Mr. Twit.
I can,
cried Mrs. Twit.
They're stretching me like mad.
He put on another 10 balloons. The upward pull became very strong. Mrs. Twit was quite helpless now, with her feet tied to the ground and her arms pulled upwards by the balloons. She was unable to move. She was a prisoner, and Mr. Twit had intended to go away and leave her like that for a couple of days and nights to teach her a lesson. In fact, he was just about to leave when Mrs. Twit opened her big mouth and said something very silly indeed.
Are you sure my feet are tied properly to the ground?
She gasped.
If those strings around my ankles break, it'll be goodbye for me.
And that's what gave Mr. Twit his second nasty idea. And there's Mrs. Twit, tied to the balloons, stretched up into the air, but quite safe at the moment, but not for very long. There she is. Does she look very happy?
No.
No, she doesn't look very happy, does she?
She looks sad.
Very sad. Right, Mrs. Twit goes ballooning up.
There's enough pull here to take me to the moon,
Mrs. Twit cried out.
"Take you to the moon?"
Exclaimed Mr. Twit.
"What a ghastly thought! We wouldn't want anything like that to happen. Oh dear me, no."
We most certainly wouldn't.
Cried Mrs. Twit.
Put some more string around my ankles quickly. I want to feel absolutely safe.
"Very well, my angel,"
said Mr. Twit, and with a ghoulish grin on his lips, he knelt down at her feet. He took a knife from his pocket, and with one quick slash, he cut through the strings holding Mrs. Twit's ankles to the iron ring. She went up like a rocket.
Help!
She cried.
Save me!
But there was no saving her now. In a few seconds, she was high up in the blue sky and climbing fast. Mr. Twit stood below, looking up.
"What a pretty sight,"
he said to himself.
"How lovely all those balloons look in the sky. What a marvellous bit of luck for me. At last, the old hag is lost and gone forever."
And there she is, floating up into the sky. But will she stay there for very long? Has Mr. Twit got rid of her forever, as he thinks? There she is.
She's
floating into the sky.
She certainly is. Well, let's find out now what happens. Mrs. Twit comes ballooning down. Mrs. Twit may have been ugly and she may have been beastly, but she was not stupid. High up there in the sky, she had a bright idea.
If I can get rid of some of these balloons, she said to herself, I will stop going up and start to come down.
She began biting through the strings that held the balloons to her wrists and arms and neck and hair. Each time she bit through a string and let the balloon float away, the upward pull got less and her rate of climb slowed down. When she had bitten through 20 strings, she stopped going up altogether. She stayed still in the air. She bit through one of...
He's sad now.
Yeah, well, he does look sad, doesn't he? We'll come to that in a moment. Very, very slowly, she began to float downwards. It was a calm day. There was no wind at all, and because of this, Mrs. Twit had gone absolutely straight up. She now began to come absolutely straight down. As she floated gently down, Mrs. Twit's petticoat billowed out like a parachute, showing her long knickers. It was a grand sight on a glorious day, and thousands of birds came flying in from miles around to stare at this extraordinary old woman in the sky. Now, next chapter. Mr. Twit gets a horrid shock, and as Noah said, he doesn't look very happy at all. I wonder why. Let's see what shock he gets. I think we probably know by now. Mr. Twit, who thought he had seen his ugly wife for the last time, was sitting in the garden, celebrating with a mug of beer. Silently, Mrs. Twit came floating down. When she was about the height of the house above Mr. Twit, she suddenly called out, at the top of her voice, "Here I come, you grisly old grunion! You rotten old turnip! You filthy old frumpet!" Mr. Twit jumped.
See you there.
Did you see us? Come and sit down then. Mr. Twit jumped as though he'd been stung by a giant wasp. He dropped his beer, he looked up, he gaped. He gasped. He gurgled. A few choking sounds came out of his mouth. "Ugh!" he said. "Ah! Ouch! I'll get you for this!" shouted Mrs. Twit. She was floating down right on top of him. She was purple with rage and slashing the air with her long walking stick, which she had somehow managed to hang on to all this time. "I'll swish you to a swazzle!" she shouted. "I'll swash you to a swizzle! I'll nash you to a nozzle! I'll nosh you to a nazzle!" And before Mr. Twit had time to run away, this bundle of balloons and petticoats and fiery fury landed right on top of him, lashing out with the stick and cracking him all over his body. Well, that's it for now. Come and sit down then, Noah.
Why?
Come and sit down, because it's not finished yet. Nearly finished. So, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that. Again, really sorry that we've not had as many videos as I would like this week, but I will post another video. Hold on. I will post another video on Sunday, and then another one on next Wednesday. So now I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm happy, and I'm ready to carry on reading the Twits. So happy reading, and good night, boys and girls. So goodbye, Noah. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.